Nowadays, you can easily make friends around the entire planet using the internet. Whether it be through video games, online classes, or language exchange programs, the possibilities seem endless. This is my story about the first time meeting with friends I had known online for years. It all started in my third year of high school. Studying foreign languages came so naturally to me that at one point I was practicing 4 a day during my classes. People thought I was odd, but to me, knowing how to speak to as many people as possible felt like one of the most powerful tools in the whole world. Anyways, outside of school, I regularly used a language exchange app to practice phrases I was learning throughout the day. A nice group, who I'll refer to as Stephen, Cassidy, and Eli, had taken me into their polyglot group chat after conversing individually for a few months. Every day, we'd text in the languages we were all practicing, trying to help each other improve. This was the kind of support group that almost every student hopes to be a part of, one where everyone encourages and supports goals you are striving for. One day, Stephen, who I believe was the original creator of the group, proposed that we all travel to their city, Budapest, in Hungary, to meet in person. Cassidy and Eli expressed that they probably wouldn't be able to join since their first semester in college was about to start at the end of the summer. I, on the other hand, was dying to get out of my house and go explore the world. Stephen's messages always gave me the impression that he was a caring and gentle man. His profile photo and posts added to his appeal. For context, I am a female, and by the time the trip idea was brought up, I had recently turned 18 and had gotten my own passport. I was good to go traveling. I messaged Stephen directly and accepted his offer. Budapest always interested me, and I wanted to use some of the Hungarian I was learning. He seemed quite excited, and after a couple months of planning and convincing my parents I'd be safe and smart while traveling alone, I was headed to Europe. About a day before my flight, Cassidy and Eli DM'd me, wishing me a great trip and to let them know what Stephen was like. We never really got the chance to video call together as a group, but have had voice calls, and I felt that that was enough to support that Stephen was who they claimed they were. Maybe 10 hours later, my plane landed in the Pearl of the Danube. Incredibly excited, I made my way out of the airport and onto a bus into the city. It was already around 7 p.m., so dropping off my things at the Airbnb was my very first priority. Then afterwards, I'd messaged Stephen. Looking at my phone while following Google Maps, a flood of messages kept coming in from him. This felt a bit off-putting, but I can imagine that they were just as excited as I was to meet. Putting my phone into Do Not Disturb mode, I got to where I was staying, a nice room within a family's home near some of the city's most popular locations. The couple that greeted me were so kind and respectful and quickly explained the house rules and where all of the important things were. After wrapping up, they went to cook in the kitchen, and I messaged Stephen that I was on my way to the restaurant that we had agreed to meet at. But scrolling through all of his texts, nearly 20 of them, he kept saying that he wanted to meet somewhere else, somewhere outdoors where we can walk around, as he put it. I replied saying that was alright, and the message was immediately read. A GPS location popped up instantaneously in the chat, with an intersection about a 15-minute walk away, and I said, I'm on my way. At 8:30 p.m. here, during the summer, the sun had nearly set, as I walked down cobblestone streets and past Gothic buildings. The city gave off a spooky vibe, honestly, but still amazed me. People were out and about and having a good time. My phone buzzed, signaling for me to make a left turn off of the main road. There were no street lights, no other people, and lots of dark corners for someone to lurk behind. I double-checked the map, and it was, in fact, the way to go, so I built up some courage and kept walking. After reaching my final destination, only one couple could be seen off in the distance, but they were headed away from me. Stephen was nowhere to be found. I gave him a call, which rang a couple times, but then went straight to voicemail, meaning that he must have purposely declined the call. As I started to write a text to him, a voice from behind me said in a familiar tone, "Hello, Nora." A smile came across my face as I recognized it, but then quickly shattered as I turned around to see a large, middle-aged man. Wearing a stained dress shirt, dirty pants, and looked like he hadn't showered for a week, I knew this was not Stephen, not the one I knew from our language app. But he continued talking, saying, "I'm so glad you came," to me while inching closer. This was not a comfortable situation to be in, but I felt frozen with fear. Closing in, a rough hand reached out to graze my cheek. With all of my might, I immediately ran back towards my Airbnb like my life depended on it, shoes clopping against the stone streets. After a few turns to get back towards the main road, I walked amongst the crowds to catch my breath, but when I looked back, Stephen was there. He was around 50 meters away, and he was staring at me with a grin. I let out a blood-curdling scream, and all of the people around me gave me a look of concern. The closest group of women asked me what was wrong, and then just pointed towards where Stephen was and said, "I have to get home and away from him." They all took a look in the direction I pointed at, but there was no one out of the ordinary there, just other people minding their own business. But they were all too kind. They walked me back to where I was staying, frequently checking over our shoulders for anyone that might have been following. Making it back to that room in that home was one of the most relieving feelings I'd ever felt. Stephen's contact was about to be blocked by me, but as I went to do so, it appeared that it had already been done. He had already removed his trace from our group chat. He clearly did not have good intentions, and I'm glad that I was saved by the kind locals of Budapest. It was July, the peak of summertime, and I had recently graduated from high school. For a while, going on a road trip seemed like an amazing idea. You'd get to see all of the different types of landscapes that America has to offer. It seemed like something that everyone should do at least once in their lifetime. After a week of packing and planning, I got in my Nissan and started my grand journey towards the East Coast. Living in Southern California, maps gave me a route that took me along Route 190, which passes through Death Valley. If I'll be honest, I wasn't too thrilled to go this way, but you might as well experience everything, right? The ride for the first couple of hours was going smoothly. I had stopped at some spots to take photos and got myself a cup of ice cream at a popular local shop. Driving through the desert was only expected to take about 2 hours of time. Shouldn't be much of a concern, I thought. It was the middle of the day, but not many people on the road, surprisingly. I think I saw 1 or 2 cars pass by within the last hour. While performing carpool karaoke to Lights by Ellie Goulding, a silver sedan came into view with my mirrors. Seeming to be quite far away, I continued driving and singing as if it wasn't there. But the next time I looked, after a few seconds, they were within a couple car lengths of my bumper. I swear, they were driving around 120 miles per hour just to catch up so quick. They didn't pass though. It felt odd. Turning around a bend, 2 other silver sedans appeared, and I had to slam on the brakes to avoid crashing into them. The car that was 2 in front of me swerved over into the left lane, blocking it, and the car behind pulled up to my bumper. Nearly boxed in, we were all at a standstill, and I was starting to freak out. The 3 driver side doors opened, and men wearing masks from the purge got out carrying baseball bats. I was terrified at this point. Normally, I'm the kind of guy to keep his cool in tense situations like this, so I took a deep breath and put my hand on the gear shift as I waited for them to walk a bit closer. If I was going to get out of this, it would have to be when they couldn't get back to their cars in time. When the man from behind began to swing his bat at my front window, I quickly shifted back into drive and slammed on the pedal, hearing my tires squeal. Turning as sharp to the left as I could, I made a U-turn on the 2-lane road while the men in front jumped back to avoid getting run over. They scrambled to get back into their vehicles, but by that point, my Ultima went from 0 to 100 in about 15 seconds. Blazing down the highway, the 3 silver sedans turned into dots as I started to get 911 on the phone to make a report. Once I had reached a fork in the road, I hung a right and pulled behind a resort that I had spotted. The police came and met me there to get a statement, and then kindly offered to escort me through Death Valley. When we got back to the spot where the cars tried to rob me, only the skids from my tires were left behind. I don't know who they were or what they planned to do, but I'm grateful that my quick thinking saved my life. For Valentine's Day, my boyfriend had decided to take me on an incredible trip to visit the West Coast. I'd never been before, so as you can imagine, I was extremely excited. We packed our bags, but hadn't gotten more than an hour of sleep prior to leaving for the airport. It was around 3 a.m. The airport was a good hour and a half drive away in the darkness of the night. Since my boyfriend, we'll call him Alex, was in charge of this whole plan, I let him drive, while I rested in the passenger seat. There was only one other car that we saw along the highway, which wasn't too surprising given the hour. The bright lights of the airport terminal and parking garage shined through the windshield, and I could feel my heartbeat accelerate in my chest as we found a spot to park. Alex got out of the car as I stretched in the seat and grabbed our suitcases out from the back. Through the mirror, though, I could see him looking around as if he heard something. I got out and asked him what was wrong, to which he just shrugged his shoulders, yawned, and said, "It's probably nothing, love." Smiling, I grabbed his hand and my luggage, and we hastily walked into the terminal through the sliding glass doors. They shut, but about 20 seconds later, I heard them open again. Quickly looking around, I saw a tall man wearing a stained dark hoodie with the hood up, jeans, and a black face mask enter the terminal. He had no suitcase, no bags, no nothing. It seemed odd, but I brushed it off as, just another individual that's entering the airport. I started to look ahead again. We eventually made our way down the long hallway to the ticket counters and approached the woman at the desk. She asked for our IDs. We handed them to her, and while not looking at Alex nor myself, she asked, And yours, sir? A chill began to run down our spines as we both looked at each other and then slowly turned our heads to see the tall man standing only a few inches behind us. Terrified, we took a step forward, pressing against the counter, and told the woman that they weren't with us. Her look of concern was obvious, as was ours. She said in a commanding voice for the man to take a step back and wait their turn. He said nothing the entire time, just stood there like a shadow as he took paces back into the queue and maintained a stare directly at me. We grabbed our tickets and nearly sprinted towards security. I didn't look back until the calming sight of 4 TSA agents came into view. Our bags passed inspection and we eventually made it to our gates. We sat down and thankfully we never saw that strange man again and enjoyed our romantic week in San Francisco.